poppin', everybody? Hold on. Let's what?
Oh,
Oh,
hi.
oh, hi, Drew.
Oh, are we live? Oh,
We're
am I
live.
here? Oh,
We're
live.
here.
Oh,
I didn't even get to do my full "What's poppin', everybody." Yeah. What's up, man? How are you?
I am fantastic. Yeah, I just shared with you behind the scenes that I just finished a workout. I'm feeling great. I'm here to talk about some comics. So yeah, it's a great day.
Heck yeah! It's always a good day when we can come here and talk about some comics. I
Yeah,
mean, why
absolutely.
not? And we do have a little bit of a special type of show tonight. So every now and then, I try to use the channel as a platform to kind of promote some good stuff. And we're going to promote some good stuff. And if you can see the screen, clearly we're talking about a little comic book here from H.H. German and Mike Barron. But I feel like if we're going to talk about this, we should have somebody else here, right?
And it feels justified. You know, if we could get Mike Barron or HH here, it'd be worth it. You know?
I mean, I'm in the South, but I feel like if we're going to talk about this, if we're going to talk about a comic book character that's from New York, I feel like we should have some authenticity on this panel talking about it. So why not have the creator himself, H.H. German? What's up, brother? How are you?
How you guys doing there? Welcome, comic book fans, comic book and manga fans. Hello from New York City.
Now, I unfortunately missed out on this, and I'm still bummed about it. But you and Drew were recently at New York Comic Con, and you two got to have a nice little dinner. So
a couple of them, yeah.
That's right.
I was bummed. Drew's usually like sending pictures, and I'm kind of glad he didn't send pictures because I was really pissed that week. So I was like, right, it's not as bad. Maybe he's taking some solace on me, but yeah. We have a really fun show. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, so I'm not going to waste too much time. But we are going to do a quick check to the chat and see who's in here so far. And we've got Cajun Corey popping in with evening. What's up, Cajun? How are you? We've got Ben Dover, checks watch. Hey, I was pretty much on time this time. All right, so even with the gimp finger, still pretty much on time. And I know that shocks everybody. But the lovely Sherry is also in the house. What's up, lovely Sherry? Hello, it's nice to see you. And we've got Zax. Nice. You had me at Josh and German. I mean, it works, Zax. It works. And yes, Cajun Corey bought Calico at Dallas Fan Expo.
Excellent. Excellent choice.
So, yeah, and if I remember correctly, he had positive things to say about it. So that's always nice. But
excellent. Great to hear.
Yeah, tonight, HH, we're going to be talking about your comic book, Here Comes Calico. You've had you've done a lot with this. You've had 8 issues that have already come out. It's your first trade. You've released it as a trade as well. You've also done manga versions.
Right.
There's so much going on, but now we're moving on into the next phase. So I'm going to let you, I want to start off by kind of going big picture. And I want to hear about Sigma Comics. How did it get started? Why did you start it? Like, give us that full background there.
All right, I'm going to go in depth, folks. So, 2020, I was training for several. Well, I guess let me go a little backwards. I used to be a fighter, New York City boxer. I was fighting in the New York City amateur system. I was at a very high level, and I turned pro in MMA. And I fought, some of the best fighters in the world as a teenager. I was very fortunate to be part of that first tier of MMA. I was sort of moving around and traveling with guys like, Vitor Belfort, who's a UFC Hall of Famer, some of the Gracie family members, particularly the Carlson Gracie sect, legendary MMA fighters like Mario Sperry. Eventually, people like Pat Miletich were part of our promotion. He's another UFC legend. And it was a great thing. I was a kid, but one thing I have to tell you, I never won a championship. And even though I was a top tier fighter, it's one regret. By the time I got my degree, I went to art school. I went to the School of Visual Arts. And a lot of creatives come out of that school. But, while I was there, I didn't really interact with any of the cartoonists, right? So even though we have a great school for cartooning, My degree's in advertising. So the years pass by, and 2020 comes, and I was always training in fighting after I got my degree. Said, you know what? I always had this regret. I really got to such a high pinnacle of my sport. I never won a championship. Let me just get back into the gym, get in shape, get the gloves back on. It felt great. I got to my fighting weight. I applied for no less than 6 Masters Division fights. This would have been when I was 44. All right, I'm a few years after that now. And sorry to say, Mr. German, around April 2020, I started getting the calls. We regret to inform you that your fight has been canceled due to COVID. And I'm like, holy crap. I've been training for 4 months now straight. I was in great shape. It was the first time ever in any fight that I did not even diet to make weight. Just for reference, I fight usually around 178 pounds, which is a light heavyweight. I'm 5'10". So I was making my weight perfectly. Everything, the training was good. Well, that went down the tubes, and I've always been a fan of comics. The person I was dating at the time, yeah, you're right there, Zax. Let me tell you, it wasn't. Just to hit on the point that Zax just made, folks. Let me tell you, if you guys are into boxing, MMA, especially MMA, back in the 90s when I was fighting, there were no weight classes, guys. This was straight up gladiator. Okay, whatever came out that tunnel is what you were fighting. And let me tell you another thing. You had to fight multiple times a night, okay? These guys fighting 1 time a day, you had to fight 3, 4, sometimes 4 times. And could you imagine this? Okay? And then you're fighting legends at the same time. It's not even like Joe Schmo coming off the street, So it was out of control. And, of course, back then, I was even lighter. I weighed 160 pounds. And I was fighting guys that were, 6'3", 200 and whatever pounds. And believe it or not, I was winning. My discipline was boxing. But I simply lacked the sophistication at that time as a fighter. Mind you, I was 21 when I was doing the tournaments. Vitor Belfort was actually right around my age. I think he was 20 or 21 as well. But he was a much more complete fighter at the time because he was a student of Carlson Gracie Jr. He was doing the jiu-jitsu. Anyway, to get back to the comics, I'm sorry, I had to hit on that. Hit back on the comics. I've always loved comics, and everything was shut down, guys. Everything here in New York was the epicenter. People were dying. I remember walking in the street. I'm not joking right now. There were body bags, okay? There were black bags on street corners. They were pulling them up to the corners. And it was nuts. It was like a scene out of, what do you call it? The first few episodes of The Walking Dead or something. It was nuts. And you'd see no one. It was the most eerie thing because New York is full of people. And there were times you'd go out, you didn't see a person. It was crazy. The person I was dating at the time got a book deal. And she said, hey, H, why don't you get your book idea off the table about that animal lover guy? And I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. Now that my fights are all canceled, I sat down and I wrote an outline for this animal lover. That was the working title. And guys, the more I sat down with that outline, the more I saw it visually. I'm a visual writer and thinker. I said, I could just imagine this suit. I see it in a comic book. I literally felt it in my hand. I could see the calico. And I said, holy crap, you know what? Let me give this a shot. I never really wrote a comic book, but as a kid, I always wrote my own strips all the time. Let me give this a shot. And sure enough, I put a comic book script together and I read it myself. I tend to be pretty objective with the work that I do. I took a walk. Folks, if you're creatives in the audience, if ever you create something, do yourself a favor, walk away from it. Seriously, take a nice long walk, give yourself an hour and a half walk, come back. You're going to do that's the best way to reboot your body. Think of your body as a computer, hit the reset button. That's what you just did when you took that 1 hour, 2 hour walk. Read that thing. And if it makes sense to you and it's compelling and it's entertaining, do something with it. And that's what I did. The first person I called, it wasn't even a person, it was the school. I said, well, let me call up SVA because School of Visual Arts. Give a young kid a shot. If he's a good artist, I could draw, but I'm not a cartoonist. So I went on the website first before I made the call, just to scroll to see who the teacher was. And I'm going through the faculty. And I scroll across a name that says Klaus Janson. And I say, holy crap, are you serious? Are you kidding me? So, of course, I'm going to send him a message, say, hey, I see your name on this. Maybe there's a kid in your class or whatever. And I didn't hear back. I didn't hear back for about a week. And I said, well, this guy's a legend. He's not going to get back to me. So I'm at an outing. And sure enough, I got a message from him. The kindest, most gentle, caring, and just wonderfully generous man you'll ever meet, Klaus Janson. Wrote a nice long message, say, hey, gave me his number. Give me a call. Let's talk. We talked for like 20, 30 minutes the very next day. The nicest man. Gave me a bunch of guidance. Guys, if I would have put out the Calico the way it looked, the way I had it, it would have been embarrassing. I'll tell you right now. If it wasn't for the guidance I received from, Klaus Janson, it would have been a different story. But thankfully, he gave me the right guidance, and I went to work. We've worked really hard on it, put a team together, and here we are with the Calico. Before we had the logo, what you see there is that's the logo that Bob Bell, Robert Bell, used to use back from the 60s, the mid 60s to the mid 80s. He was one of the first, if not the first, Marvel advertiser. He would do these half-page ads. You probably see them. You collectors who collect comics from that period, the silver and the bronze age of comics. You'll definitely remember that ad, that logo that was on that ad. And I particularly found Bob Bell's number, and I reached out to him, and we had a nice conversation about how my father used to. Both my parents worked in the New York hospital system. And the only way they can get comics, because they get out really late sometimes, is mail order. And they knew I liked comics, and Bob Bell's company was seminal for that. And I spoke to the man, and I said, "Listen, your logo was seminal to my American, comic book story. I am of Dominican heritage. I'm a first generation, and comics were, seminal to my, American story." And he was listening to me. He said, "You know what, kid? I'm retired. Take the logo." And I said, Bob Bell, I really appreciate this because you personify an individual going out on his own and doing his own thing. And he created the comic book checklist. And you see the indicia, Bob Bell, the BB on the chest, on the side shoulder there. We kept it on there to honor the individual Sigma that he is. And that's why we call the company Sigma Comics, because we're not going to follow the leader. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to strike out. We don't need to be following what other people do. And that's the gist of the company. And here we are now on your great show.
Heck yeah. I love the Klaus Janson bit, man. Like that's freaking awesome. Drew, have you met Klaus before?
Yeah, I've met Klaus a few times. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a nice guy. It's funnily enough, the last conversation I had with him was at Terrificon. I think it was right after the COVID restrictions had started to lift. So that was like in 2022, I think, late 2022. And I had noticed that it peaked because he had done some stuff in the early 90s, like on Ghost Rider and a few others. And I had told him, hey, man, like, this stuff in the 90s, I hope you have some of these in stock because these are selling like hotcakes now. 90s nostalgia is huge. And he's like, what? Really? Those 90s books? I'm like, yeah, man, they're huge. I'm letting you know right now. And I don't know if he ever did that or not, but I hope he did.
Yeah. HH, before we jump into talking a little bit about Calico, I do have a super chat reel here that I'm going to highlight, but we do have Cannoli Sasquatch in the house. Lightsaber buddies help each other out. Yes, indeed. Cannoli has a great show that he does on Monday nights called MMM, Movie Madness Mayhem. I always get the words mixed up. But last night they talked about Twilight, which was hilarious. So if you get a chance, go check out his channel and see what they discuss. There are a few I clipped a couple of moments from that stream because they were so funny. But Cannoli, for that, let's give you a little Colossus, man.
Yeah.
I know we say this every time, but like when that scene happened in the theater, I remember being like, yeah. And then they're like, all right, let's get out of the way, Colossus. You're out of the movie now. And I was like, you bastards. You bastards. HH. So
Yes.
you kind of came about. You hit 2020 pandemic. I think it turned the world upside down for pretty much everybody. You decided to do something productive with it. You wanted to make comics. You went about this mission, created your company, and then you created Here Comes Calico, which is the comic book featuring Calico.
Yep.
I want to hear a little bit about the character, what resonates between you and him, and then the whole animal aspect, because I'm right there with you on this one. So give us a little bit. Who is Calico?
You're a great interviewer. You're getting right to the meat of the subject, guy. So Hector Gil is the Calico, the ultimate defender of animals. He gets intel on people who abuse and kill animals, and he goes after those bastards with extreme justice. All right. The Calico makes Frank Castle look like Gandhi. If you love animals and you hate animal abuse, this is your man. Definitely not for kids, but I'm going to tell you this. Calico is based on yours truly. Obviously, in a grand, frankly, it's the hero that I would want to be. A lot of people, a lot of kids growing up, myself included, we say, hey, I want to be Spider-Man or Superman when I grow up, or Wonder Woman, whoever you want to be. But if there's one character that adults want to be, when they actually read the Calico and they see what he does to people who abuse animals, as adults, we can't really do these things because we'll get arrested. The Calico has carte blanche, folks, when it comes to going after these SOBs, who abuse animals. And 10 times out of 10, when people read this book, they come right back to our booth and say, holy crap, you know what? This is the guy I want to be, all right, as an adult. And so the character is based on me as a kid, or even later on as a later teen and early adult. I had some run-ins with people who abused animals. And let's just say it got pretty bumpy. The interactions got bumpy. And I write a lot of, actually pretty much all of what I write is from experience. Again, I used to be a fighter. So if you're into, I think a lot of what has been missed in today's comics is some of these people who are writing comics at the big two, and even maybe in the big three, the Image, they just don't have enough, life experience, and or haven't even been hit by a punch or even been in a fight. I just think how on earth are you going to write about what is the essential thing in comics, which is conflict? The fight between good and evil is conflict. Okay. And if you don't have a fundamental understanding of that, I just don't understand how you could even have any business writing comics. And it's widespread. So in my case, you're getting a book that's written by someone who has had hundreds of fights on the street, in the octagon, in alleys, in other places that I'm ashamed to say, but it is what it is. I'm from the Bronx, and that's just what we did. Fighting is Tuesday for me. It's like going downstairs and taking out the trash. So I just happen to have been fortunate to have gone to an art school, and I've been able to, my senior year at SVA, I had 3 creative writing classes. All right. And it was amazing. I very much enjoy reading. Of course, my thing was mainly comics, but I did enjoy reading prose books as well. But that's really when I came across the writings of Oscar Wilde, who's definitely the writer that really tuned me into writing. This guy was just absolutely out of control. He was like a flamboyantly gay writer from back in the 1800s. And he was just sticking his fingers up to everybody, right in their face. He was gung-ho. And if you read Calico, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, right from the first page, bam, we nail you. And I just don't think we waste time with action and adventure. And when you pick up our comics from Sigma Comics, you are absolutely going to be entertained. My mentor, Mike Barron, he says, you really have to do something powerful when you're a writer. Okay. Yep. The very first and most important thing you need to do is you need to entertain. And a lot of writers today forget about that. All right. So like I said, I'm lucky. I went to art school for this, and I do have experience as well as somebody who's been in a lot of conflicts. But I understand what entertainment is. If you're giving me your money, it is my fundamental responsibility to make sure that when you walk away with my book, you're entertained. Otherwise, I feel like I'm robbing you.
Yeah.
That's my fundamental responsibility. And I think we as creators, we should take just like the doctors do in the hospitals, they take the Hippocratic Oath. Creators should take an oath to their comic book customers and say, listen, I promise to entertain you when I sell you this comic book. And that's something that we do. So
absolutely. That's, Drew and I, we're constantly talking about comics, and we're constantly talking about this very thing, that it's like the one thing that these creators seem like they're forgetting to do a lot of the time is create something that's entertaining. And it's interesting too, because we've had the other element that you were just discussing, that so many of these writers, you can tell they haven't really lived. Like the struggles that they faced are so minute, so minuscule, that something like I couldn't get the Starbucks order that I wanted and it ruins their day. Like, Drew likes to say, you can tell there's a lot of people that haven't been to war. And it, as abrasive as that may sound, it's true. Like there's so many people that don't understand the privilege and the great life, especially here in the States, the great life that they have. And how easy we actually have it. So Drew, I don't know if you want to share some of that, but a lot of what HH is discussing is something you've brought into your books and something you also try to make a point to have there. And that's that entertainment value. And what he talked about, Mike Barron saying, you got to hit them with a punch.
Right.
Yeah. And what I will say, what HH, Mike, myself have in common is that we are still living our lives. We've lived lives. Mike, holy crap. You want to talk about a guy who's had an incredible life doing a whole slew of things. On top of HH and myself, it's just those events, those things we took part in. We draw upon those, the people we met, the people we come across, the conversations we've had. We draw upon those and put those into our stories. Those unique personalities. It gives a character's life and those stories life. I do that in all of my stories, and HH, I'm sure, is doing that in his stories. And there are a lot of writers, like you, piggyback on what you just said, Josh, is just that clearly people have not gotten out of their bubbles, gotten out of their comfort space. All they know is just living with their roommates, going to Starbucks, walking down the street, talking about TVs and talking about TV shows and eating food. That's a comic book now in Marvel. Congratulations. And I refuse, and I'm sure HH refuses as well, to tell comic book stories like that. Not going to happen. Not in here.
Drew, some modern comics will have the eating of the food and then one page of action. I mean, come on. It's there. I do want to address, because you were discussing or describing Calico, and you put that he can put Frank Castle to shame with how violent he is. And Cajun Court came in with, oh, yes, he does. And then followed up with, it's a hard R rating. Look, he's violent, and you got a T-shirt that you sell that talks about. Gosh, what is it? I'm trying to think of what it says. It says something on the front, and then
it says it says I kill, and then for animals.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, and that's very much who Calico is. So, and honestly, too, I feel like you do a really good job of getting, your city, like New York and the Bronx, and trying to get that vibe in there.
It has character.
Yes. It feels like a lived in. If there's something there, when people talk about getting someone of a certain area or race or whatever, it's just trying to get that lived in mentality, and you manage to bring elements of that into your book. But it's also not just a violent book. Like he gets a little every now and then as well.
Can you blame him? He's a pretty damn fit guy. I mean, I would hope so.
Fair. I just remember reading. I was like, "Oh, okay, we're getting some spiciness in here too." But it's a nice kind of element here. But I wanted to, I know you had classes and you went to school and you had done writing.
Right.
Had you actually created a story and written a story before jumping into this?
This is my first comic book series. I'd written various pieces. I've been writing for the past 20 years. Written tons of articles, business technology and whatnot at a professional capacity in corporate America. But with respect to fiction, no, this was my first actual published work, the Calico. In terms of fiction, I've published, tons of nonfiction stories out there in different, magazines and whatnot. But my capacity in corporate America was I was working in ad agencies. I was working also as a director of marketing. So I was responsible for a lot of not only PR, but also, substantive editorial for the products and or services that, my companies and or my clients were putting out. So this is really my first fiction published work. And, thankfully, like I said, how I came up in New York City, I have a very rich, wonderful, upbringing with respect to comics. Spidey was my favorite here in New York City. And I want to say one thing, if I can. One of the reasons I wanted to come on your show, Josh, is that the name of your show is called, it's the culture, Popeye culture, right? And I think this is a very important thing these days. And it's not something that I really fully comprehended when we started as a business, how important the culture of comics was and the current climate in culture. I don't know if I can come in and say this now, or if you want to have a little bit later in the
say it. No, you're good, man. Say it.
Yeah, I guess I'm just a bit taken aback. We didn't realize the division that existed in comics. We just wanted to put out great fun stories for people to read, and for the most part, we have just everybody. It doesn't matter where they come from, political persuasion, sex, gender, up, down, left, right, Martian, American, U.S., whatever. Everyone finds a common ground with our book. So we don't really have that issue with respect to, people coming from different, from one part of a certain viewpoint. We have everybody coming in. We appreciate that. But I have to say this. These days you have to sort of pick a side, and we don't do that. We support creators that are left leaning, that are right leaning. We just don't care about that. That's why, look at my mentor. Listen, if you don't get it yet from my accent, I'm a New Yorker. What does that mean to you? I lean left. Okay. That's just by default. All right. But look at who my mentor is. My mentor is none other than far right wing Mike Barron. Okay. And you know what? That's the way comics used to be. All right. Chuck Dixon, his favorite editor of all time and boss was Denny O'Neil. Okay. And look at the work that these guys did. All right. And the list goes on and on and on and on. I can care less who's, what politically. I can give two craps about that. You know what? You want to know why? Because I have a responsibility. Okay. And this is a very important thing for you creators out there. You cannot put anything, and I mean anything, above your responsibility. And that's exactly what it is. Your responsibility for putting out a piece of creativity out there. I don't care if it's a song, a piece of food, a dance, in our case, books. It's creativity. Nothing should come between your amazing imagination, your heart, and your pure heart, and the product. Once you put agenda before that, once you put politics before that, once you put your insertion, you insert yourself in, that's no longer creativity, folks. That is now something else. That's a public service, a PSA. That's a this and that, and it deserves to go where it needs to go. And that's why your sales are where they are. There you go. Okay, yeah. This is very important, guys. And again, I'm sorry I'm taking up time on this, but it's amazing to me.
You're good. Like, if I were to ever say, and I can't really say it's a mentor because I've never actually had a full conversation with a guy, but for me, writing wise, if I had a mentor, someone that shaped me into how I like to tell stories and approach characters and explore characters, it's Joss Whedon. And Joss Whedon is definitely leftist. Like, the guy, he leans left. I know there's all the modern day issues with him. I get it.
Right.
But he can deliver a good story. And I'm the type of person, I don't care what your background is. If you come in and you want to tell a good story, I'm on board. Especially working in LA, working in film and television. Like, I'm surrounded by so many different people with so many different backgrounds, and not even just political or sex or whatever it might be, but just where they live. Like, I worked with so many people that aren't from the US.
Right.
and getting to work with them and hear their stories and how they approach things and just their overall mindset. Because you'll find people that how we view or what we view as moral is different than what they may view. And it's not to say it's wrong or bad. They just have different perspectives. So I'm with you. Like, come in, tell a good story. If you're working with something that's been around, respect the history of that character or brand or legacy.
Right.
But yeah, come in, tell a good story. Like focus on doing your best, and try to. There's this fine line of putting lived in experience and creating a self insert.
Right.
But don't change something to be a self-insert. But like if you've got a lived experience, it's worth telling. It's worth we were kind of talking about just the textures of New York that's in this book with the people and the lifestyle. That's something I could never write well because I've never lived in New York. I visited once for work, was there for a weekend, and guess what? I was working pretty much the entire time I was there, so I didn't experience the city. Like I was there. So I could never go in and write a New Yorker the way you could, because you're going to get so many textures there. So I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on this.
I'm going to say a couple things to that. Okay. The first is thank you for bringing up the very fine distinction between the self-insert and the inspired, living experience. Right. So in our case, in this case, the character is actually directly inspired by me. It's a very different thing. A character that's been around for decades, that has a history, that has a texture, that has a following. You come in out of nowhere and decide to put yourself into that character. That is a very different thing. And most certainly, in I think by any fair and reasonable account, it is malpractice. Okay. So you really have to respect the history, the texture, all of the storylines that have been the fabric of that character, to make sure that you're spinning and weaving that story and continuing to have a wonderful fabric product for that character. That is a responsibility. In this case, the Calico is a bit different. This is a brand new series that is directly inspired by myself and my experience, as you pointed out. To the second piece about the life experience, I already told you I've been in so many fights, but man, how important was it when I sat down with that team and I said, listen, guys, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to tell you this once. This is the most important thing I want you to hear from me. This is the creative team. I'm telling you. The second most important character in this book is New York City. And I'm talking about not just Midtown. I'm talking about the Bronx. I'm talking about, Brooklyn, Bensonhurst, Bay Ridge, Queens, Staten Island, all these places and all these textures that we're going to give this thing. Because we really want to comics is about it's a window. A comic book is a window that you open up, okay, and it allows you to go right through that thing. And now you're in that comic book for however many minutes you're going to be in there, an hour, whatever, 15 minutes, whatever you want to be. That's my responsibility. So I'm navigating this ship. I need to make sure all these crew members are fully aligned. They understand what the priorities are. It needs to look and smell and feel like New York. This is why we print on newsprint, okay? I want people walking away from these comics with that smell of, that ink, that heavy ink stuff on their fingers. I want them to feel, this is awesome, and I want them to get that hit. You tell them, Drew, I said, we sell that stuff like drugs in the street where we're at these conventions.
That's true. What you're saying, what you're saying about selling these things like drugs may or may not be the slide that I was referencing backstage. We'll get there later. You mentioned printing on newsprint, and I promise we're going to get to the current book in the campaign.
I love it. That's why I love this trade paperback. It's one of the so my two favorite collections I own. One is my Batman Year One Absolute Edition because it printed one edition in the original newsprint, which is flipping brilliant, and this because it's in newsprint. That's how comic books should be, on newsprint. And
thanks, Drew. I really appreciate that.
Love it.
All right.
Yeah, there's definitely an audience that loves that, but also the nostalgia of it, and like you said, the smell of it. There's something about books and smells that just go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
I do want to highlight a few comments real quick. We did have the man himself, Maxfield Von Priestley, hop in with a
let's
go.
Hey, what's going on, Max?
He put Calico, baby.
Hey, I'm
we
going
love
on your
Max.
show next.
Get ready. And then we also had Salty Traveling Sea hop in. He said watching you on Cell, Pacific Bomb, Cyclone hit coastal remote western Washington hard, 1/3 of my county without power, no timeline to restore. 15-mile-per-hour winds. Sheesh. Stay safe. Entertain me, Josh. But the big thing is he came in with I will absolutely back Calico. So
thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I backed it a few minutes ago. So
heck yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are about to go ahead and discuss the new book, the continuation of the story. It is on out there for you to back. I've got a link pinned in the chat. It's also in the description, so make sure you go check it out. But let's go ahead and get on to discussing the continuation of Calico's story. You mentioned your mentor, Mike Barron.
Yes, Mike Barron.
You've brought him on board.
Yeah. So let me explain this one. So the way this started is, and I mentioned that we don't care. We support left, right, left-leaning creators, right-leaning creators. Mike Barron had come out with a new book, and I had supported it on one of the crowdfunded. I don't know if it was Indiegogo or Kickstarter. I can't remember at the time. And I just had a question for him, and and I bought the product, and then he sent me out the stuff, and then in the message, I said, hey, listen, can you take a look at this? And it was, the first couple of issues of Here Comes Calico. Man, let me tell you something. I left my phone number on there. He read it the same day. He called me back. We were on the phone for like almost an hour. And since that time, he's a real big fan of the Calico. He really enjoys the way I wrote it. And I tell you, there's not a luckier guy in comics to have, one of your, heroes. I mean, frankly, he's, my favorite comic book writer. The way he wrote The Punisher back in the late 80s, early 90s. I used to read that book from left to right. That's the book that I used to take everywhere with me, and I just love that stuff. The grit and grime that he put on that thing. And talk about working with an artist to make sure that they really capture the city. Holy crap. And, some of that stuff was out of control. Guys showing up with a bazooka outside the window. If you're a teenager, man, you are that's just right up your alley. That was certainly right up my alley. And I love the way he wrote the Punisher. And so anyway, we've been friends since that time. And, I basically talk to him every day. It's a really good relationship. And, I'm very fortunate to have him as a mentor and a friend. So he's also a big animal lover. And listen, that's exactly our audience, is animal lovers who love comics. And, that's my mentor, of course. But, we have the team. Renato is doing a fantastic job. Javier Orbich was the initial artist. And, Renato's, taken up and done a wonderful job inside. He brings that gritty noir feel to the book, which I really think is very important. Our friend Drew here, who's a wonderful comic book mind, he mentioned Batman Year One, which is my favorite Batman story of all time. I have it over there as well.
Indeed.
I think he's got the better copy though. He's got that nice print version. Yep. But what it was Mazzucchelli who did that one?
Yep. Dave Mazzucchelli. Yep.
Right. Wow, what a job. You want to talk about noir feel in that one, huh? How about that?
Absolutely.
So, and that's exactly what I told Renato. I sat him down. I said, listen, Renato, you and I are going to be talking every day, right? And you need to make sure this thing smells like the 6 train at 2 a.m. Okay. And
wait. Does that also smell like R. Kelly sheets? Because in Hollywood, that would be a yes. No, go ahead.
Yeah, we really wanted to make sure we have the right texture. And then, of course, Garnabio just hitting it right out of the park with those covers. I mean, every cover that has been done and the Here Comes Calico series has been done by Garnabiel, and he's just fantastic. The color work, so
you have.
Yeah,
I will agree. You have some, and look, I think this kind of comes with your marketing background. You have really striking covers. And a lot of times, and this isn't a knock, but a lot of times I'll see indie creators at conventions and they're pushing their books, but the covers just, there's not much there to grab me. And your covers sometimes are super simple, but man, I'm even thinking of that Calico #1 where it's just him on the cover, but he looks badass.
Absolutely.
And then it's got run. Like, that's the like it looked badass, but the run with the period just sold it. I was like, I'm a fan.
Well, that's a great point that you're just bringing up, and we felt that we really needed to have that 1-2 punch. It's not enough to hit him with the jab. You really have to hit him. Once you stun him, then you got to come over the top with the right hand, and that's exactly what that run. It was so important to get that run in there. So,
absolutely. So you've got Mike. You brought him on board. You're continuing the story of Calico. So what we have that you've got for your Kickstarter campaign right now, you've got pretty much what is essentially issues 9 and 10, but this is the prologue for book 2. So kind of give us an idea. What are we kind of moving into, and then what can we expect with this new story?
Right. Again, great interview. This is very insightful stuff you're giving the audience, and creators out there. I really want you to listen to this because I really think this is the future of comics. I had a conversation with Dan Didio not too long ago in Tampa Bay about this. You and I, all of us here on the stream here, and the audience, we come from the individual floppy model where we're putting out these books, every month or every other month for us, as an indie, or even later for some other indies. But what we have learned, and we've learned this because of our extensive convention touring, we've learned that if you just bundle a couple of comics, you could bring the price down because you're printing more in one piece. All right. For us, we're going to do it for $5, once it's published. Obviously, the Kickstarters are more expensive because we're trying to generate money to actually do the project. And then, of course, that also comes with rewards, that we meet with goals and whatnot. But the actual price stand book that we'll put it out for this particular prologue is $5. And what we'll do is we'll call it a prologue because, in essence, it's the first couple of stories in the entire arc, which will be book 2. So moving forward, what we're going to do is, we're going to have a floppy, but it's going to be a prologue that's going to have 2 issues in it. So that satisfies, it quells the itch that the comic book reader wants in a floppy. It gives them a nice $5 comic book, and it gives them 2 for the price of 1. All right. So we give you 2 comics for $5. And then the next thing that we're going to put out is a comic book trade that has 6 stories in it, 6 24-page stories. And then we're going to charge you, $20 or $25, whatever it is. All right. So I think moving forward, you're going to see stuff like this. Certainly for us, we are going to do that moving forward because of what we've learned. It allows us to give an entry-level product for someone that just wants to dip their toe. Hey, here you go, $5, give it a shot if you like it. Well, guess what? Right next to that is the $20, $25 trade where you can get the whole thing for, $20, $25. And it's a nice offering. It's a nice mix offering that you have.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great way to do it. Right. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate that. Absolutely.
I agree. And for perspective, we have to keep in mind that the books that are coming out and hitting stands right now in comic shops, you'll have a 20-page issue that, you might get lucky and find a comic that's $2.99 from one of these main publishers, but a lot of them are getting up to $4.99, $5.99, $7.99. If you get a Marvel #1, you're paying $6, $7, $8 for it. To get 2 issues, 48 pages of story for that price, you don't see that in comics anymore. So it's nice to see. And then, even comparatively, sometimes looking at what some of these crowdfunders charge for their books, that's a good bang for your buck. It's a good deal.
Right.
I I do want to, like, I know you're kind of working with Mike, and I know I think he's writing what's essentially issue 9. You pick back up with issue 10.
Right.
One of the things that I loved talking to Drew about as he was kind of beginning his writing career is what have you learned? How much have you learned in writing these comics, and how do you feel like you've gotten better as a writer?
Right. Well, if the question is to me, I'll tell you this. I think that for me, it mimics my fighting, actually, believe it or not. When I first started, I was very raw. In high school, I weighed over 200 pounds. I was a very big, muscular, 5'10" kind of guy. And I fought, actually, coincidentally, very much like Tyson because of my height and weight. I had his kind of stocky build. And that's how I started with issue 1 of Here Comes Calico, by any reasonable account. It was right into your throat. Your emotions are taken from you right from the first panel. And I think what we're doing here in this second run, the second arc of the story, Here Comes Calico, kicked off by Mike Barron, under his guidance here. I think what we're doing is it's a more fit, well-trained fighter coming in, writing this thing. All right. So what does that mean? It means your hands are up. Okay, your punches are quicker, you're moving, and that's what you're going to see in this series. I think you're going to see a more sophisticated, well-crafted, tighter story that is even in every aspect, not just the writing, but also in the noir. I mean, look at the art in this. Look at the darkness in here. This work by Renato, absolutely amazing stuff. Here's the Calico, getting ready to do business. He's talking to a detective there. And now he's on a roof and he's looking down and seeing what's going on. And it's just it's a more methodical approach to the comic creating process. And again, I thank Mike Barron. The impetus for this philosophy, if you will, isn't really from Mike. It's from Jim Steranko, believe it or not, another incredible legend. He took me aside, another fan of the book. I met him at Big Apple Comic-Con in New York City, in the New Yorker Hotel. It happens every year. And he took me aside. He spoke to me for a good 15, 20 minutes and spoke to me about the character and how much he loves the character and what his mission is. But also consider the hero's journey, because even though he is an anti-hero, there's still the word hero in that moniker. And that was a very powerful conversation that he and I had. And it laid the groundwork for this new arc of the Here Comes Calico story. And it really is a hero's journey in series 2 here. Here Comes Calico.
Yeah, I love you. Well, a couple of things here. I love you talking about how your story is kind of fitting your training and your fighting, that you're getting a tighter story. And in television especially, we'd always got to talk about how we would find our footing, with the characters, the story we're trying to tell. And I would even say, even with your first 8 issues, it was like you became, more sure of what you wanted to tell. And each issue just got a little bit tighter. I feel like the artwork got a little bit better, and you just saw this progression. And I'm really excited to see, how this continues to progress, where it leads, where it goes. And it's like I told Drew, one of the best ways for you to get better as a writer, as a storyteller, is just to write. You just gotta throw it down. You gotta take feedback. Sometimes it hurts, to get feedback, but it's the only way you're gonna get better.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I'm all for but I love just even looking at these pages, and I pulled these pages from the campaign page, so it was one long image that I had to break up. So if you're looking at it and you're like, oh, it's duplicate, it's just because I had to break it up. But man, this art looks so good. You mentioned the noir aspects. It's definitely got a little bit more of that. The shading, the colors, that kind of dark tone to it works.
Right.
And then I love in this, if you look in this bottom right, he's throwing one hell of a punch. And I love that the colors for the background turn to this kind of pinkish red, because it's just distinctly different. So really good stuff here. Drew, I don't know if you want to hop in with anything real quick.
No, it looks beautiful. This is honestly, it looks different, you know, in my opinion, it looks different from the first volumes, and
Right.
something about it. But I dig it, and I like that, and I just love seeing him crouched on top of the roof like that. It's awesome.
Yeah,
It's a great heroic pose.
it is. It's such an awesome. Like it's Batman does this so much, and well, Daredevil too. You know, I love it. You know, the other thing I wanted to touch on that you mentioned was the anti-hero, but hero is still in the word. I think a lot of times when writers are writing characters, especially if they are anti-heroes, I think we tend to see they forget that heroic aspect, and then you get stuck with a character that you don't like or that is hard to like,
Right.
or
Right.
they use it as an excuse for like how much can we put into just shock value. And I'm
Right.
glad that it doesn't fall into either one of those things. Like this guy is very much a real dude.
Right.
You know, you can kind of relate to him in a lot of ways. I mentioned this earlier. I'm a lover of animals. I've got a shirt that says I like dogs more than people.
All right.
Like I'm an overall animal guy, but I'm a dog guy because I have dogs.
Right.
And I'm one of those people. I think I mentioned this on Max's stream. I'm one of those people that I will ugly cry in a movie if an animal gets killed or like something bad happens to it. And I'll watch a movie with people, and I'm like, yeah, that sucks. So I don't know what it is. I like to view it as like I view a lot of animals as being innocent and they can't really, you know, defend themselves. But
that's exactly what it is. It really is.
Yeah. But you know, I'm not quiet about one of my favorite characters is actually the Huntress. And when they first made Helena Bertinelli in the late 80s and kind of carried her through the 90s, that was her big thing. They put her as a juxtaposition to Batman for the sake of she's not afraid to kill. And she calls him out like you stop someone, you put them in jail, they get back out, they kill all these other people, that blood's on your hands. I make sure it's final. And there is an argument there, and it's not a justification for killing. I'm not saying that, but there is a conversation to be had. So I like that is in this character, and then it kind of gets to be explored.
Yep, absolutely.
Real quick before we move on, because I want to talk about the campaign specifically and some of the tiers that are there, but I have to show off some of these comments. We have Cage and Corey coming in as a member for 6 months. I just backed the next Calico. Heck yeah, man. We love it. That's what we want to see.
Thank you.
I've got to throw you a clip real quick for coming in with this. So let's see. What are we going to do, Corey? Let's go with the little cat.
Okay, so look, this is my opinion. Look, I love that fight scene. But Josh, you're gonna have to add in the GSP Captain America fight on the boat at some point.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I was like the GSP. Yeah, no,
yeah,
I love that one too.
Yeah.
Well, man, even the scene where he's just running along, just like yeeting dudes off the ship. He just like boom, and you just see him flying. Oh, I love it. That whole film is freaking great.
Yeah, it's one of the best, if not the best. Yeah.
Hey guys, real quick, totally not related. Well, I guess related to what we just saw. If I would have stayed in the EFC promotion, which got absorbed into the UFC, there is an excellent chance that I would have fought GSP.
What?
George St. Pierre. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Because we were in the same weight class. There was an excellent chance that would have. And given my record too at the time, there's an excellent chance that I would have fought him. One of the table mates, his name was John Lewis, and he was the trainer for the Fertitta brothers, and they were the ones who eventually bought the UFC, and then brought the EFC Pride fighters and a bunch of. This is when you started seeing people like Randall. Ronald Candle. I don't know what his name is. There's a Maurice Smith. That's another one UFC fighter. He was in our. There's a lot of fighters from the UFC that were merged in. The Pride fighters got, and all it would have been was a couple of years, and I would have been able to fight someone like GSP. So could you imagine H.H. German versus GSP?
I would love to see that now. If that did happen, I would be paying to see that.
I love it. Before I do these other two membership tweets, I've got to show this. Murder is sometimes cool, Josh. 2024. Well, I'm known for inserting my foot in my mouth and saying things and being like, "Well, that didn't come out right." So it wouldn't be my show if we didn't have those moments. The other two memberships, and I love that it's just these guys showing support and love. But we've got Zach's coming in with 6 months of membership. Zach's, for you, I feel like I should play this clip.
I'll show you the tool that's most important to our survival, but fair warning, it's my penis.
Another legend right there.
Another legend.
Wait, before you run the next guy, can I tell you a quick Chevy Chase story, or do you want to do it?
No, do it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I was dating this chick. This would have been 1999. Okay, I was dating this chick, and when you get a point with a chick that you're like, I kind of don't want to date her anymore, and you kind of make excuses when they invite you out, right?
Yeah.
So we had a snowstorm. Okay, this would have been 99, and she was like, "Hey, HH, because she was a photographer. She's like, I'm shooting this wedding at a bed and breakfast in this quaint little town in Jersey. And it's just going to be a couple of families, and we're going to be snowed in, and it's going to be so cozy, yada, yada." I said, I think I've got like something in my throat. I don't really feel that well. I think it's probably better for me to stay. So she gets back. She was a Japanese woman, and her English wasn't really that great, and she didn't know much about American culture. So she gets back on Sunday and calls me up when she gets back at night. She's like, "Hey, HH, you know what? It's probably a good thing that you didn't come because we got snowed in. It was more snow than we thought. So all of us stayed in the same room watching movies for the whole weekend. And apparently, one of the guys was really funny in the family. He was telling jokes all the time, and we were watching. Apparently, he's an actor. And he's like, yeah, his name's Chevy Chase. He was really funny. And we hung out the whole weekend, eating together and, just sitting on the couch at the bed and breakfast." And I said, "Oh, are you kidding me?" Wow. I could have had a whole weekend. They spent the whole weekend together downstairs because everything was, snowed out, and they put food out in the main area. The families, it was like 3 families, and they just hung out together for the whole weekend. I could have hung out with Chevy Chase the whole week. Can you believe that?
That would have been wild.
I would have been like, "Dude, you're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. I got so many questions. You're going to be answering all my questions all weekend."
All of my questions would have pertained to Nothing But Trouble.
Oh, God, that movie. Jeez.
I love it. I never met him, and I would love to have met him. I know people say he's
so
I'm like, I just feel like you don't have a sense of humor. What I don't know.
So it was like last year, 2 years ago, he started doing the convention circuit for the first time ever. Yeah. And I remember at MegaCon specifically, that was the first show he went to. Every day, people were when the doors opened, when they released the hounds, they were hauling ass to his line. His line every single day was nuts.
I mean, he's a legend, though.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, people are paying between $200 to $300 a pop, for a signature and a photo. And it's like he cleaned up at MegaCon.
Wait! I just remembered the most important detail that I forgot to tell you. Oh. During the time, if you go and watch the movie Nothing But Trouble, mm-hmm. he's driving a 1982 733i BMW. Yeah. At that exact time, I was driving that exact same car that he was driving in that movie, and it would have been parked right there.
Wow. That's a nice BMW too. Wow.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. Oh. We also have the man himself, MVP Maxwell Von Priestley, coming in with the 6 months of membership. Max, if you're gonna give any type of form of super chat, I feel like the only valid clip to show is this one.
Max, I just gifted you a ice cream super sticker.
Ice cream, yum.
Oh,
man, Max.
Oh, love it. Max, we love you. And also, HH, he did say, yes, we need to have him on Comic Shop Conversation. So I'm sure you and him will be talking soon.
Yes, we'll do it, Max. Absolutely. Thank you. We'll do it. Absolutely.
Now,
Max has always been a great comic book fan, a fan of true comics, somebody who knows comics really well. And, God bless him and his family and his show. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love Max. Max and Drew, Aaron, these guys are some of my closest friends. Like, we talk pretty much daily. So,
good people.
It's
good people.
And we were talking about, this is going to be a little of a sidetrack and segue because it's relative to you as well. It's right. Aaron was bringing up how we're all together the way we are, in large part because of Wes from Thinking Critical. Right. Because I started doing stuff with Wes, Drew was doing stuff with Wes, Max was doing stuff with Wes. That's how we became friends. That's how I first learned about you, HH. Right. Like, it's crazy, these relationships that I've built, these friendships that I've created, we've created, right, just from a bunch of nerds coming on a YouTube stream to talk about comics, man. Like, and Jim from Weird Science, Gay, like, it goes on and on and on. And I found myself that I talk to these people more than most people, and with Drew and Max and Aaron and Kyle, Drew's brother, it's like we'll try to see each other hopefully at least once a year, hopefully more than that.
Yeah, Dallas was so much fun.
Yeah. I think that first year we were all in Dallas and got to hang out. We're like, all right, this is it. But and yes, bend over. Jim and Gabe, I heard those guys are sus. Gabe especially. Sus Gabe.
Yeah, especially in Kyle. I can vouch for Kyle. No, I can't vouch for him. He's very sus. Even more so since he became dad.
Fair. Getting back to
just think about it. You're right, Josh. Just think about it. If we had never been on Wes's channel, this would not be happening right now.
Yeah. No. Like, man, no. It's just wild. And Drew, even from your writing perspective, like, you partnered with Aaron on, and even Joe Corallo, like, you partnered with them as editors. Like, would that have ever happened had you not? Like,
no. I don't even know if I'd be writing anything now.
Right. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this. The first two YouTube channels that I became personally familiar with, that I really enjoyed, that gave me a good sort of a barometer for what was happening in comics, was Wes's channel and Perch's channel. Those are really the two channels that served as a very good sort of platform for me to understand, okay, this is what's happening in comics. With any business that you're going to start, the prudent thing to do is to do your research, to understand what's happening, the tenor of the industry. And Wes, wow, what a great job Wes does with that show. I think Wes is someone that's doing a tremendous service to comics right now, folks. He's really somebody who's doing good stuff there in comics, him and Perch.
Absolutely agree. HH, I want to go on and start talking about the campaign itself. Yep. Once again, I'll remind everyone, we have a link that's pinned in the chat, the live chat. We also have it in the description. But I want to go through some of these tiers and pricings for the book. So, and you do offer digital options, but I just picked a few that I think are just really show. We're talking about the quality and how good these prices are.
Right.
But, reader copy of these books while backing the campaign. You've got the 2-issue book here, and you see the prices here with what they come with. Right. You've got a reader copy, a collector copy,
right?
Unsigned on the reader copy, $10, signed by UHH 15, right. Signed by Mike 20, right. Signed by both 25. Again, great deals. Go to the collector side, unsigned 15, signed by you 20, signed by Mike 25, and then both you 30. Right. I don't know if you want to talk about this value, but
sure.
Go in.
We'll do. Well, listen, for in essence, what you're getting, a 2 comic book. I mean, this is a wonderful deal. You're talking about 48 pages, no advertising. The only advertising that we do have are sponsored messages that we have on the covers, the inside covers, and they're for the 2 charities that we support, who's, by the way, both of which are vetted to make sure their program to operations ratio is over 80%. That means that these charities are doing wonderful things with the money that you're giving. They're not ripping you off. And that's all the only thing we do in terms of, promotion. And that's inside the back cover. In terms of the comic itself, 100% comics, 100% of the time. You're getting 2 stories, 24 pages apiece by the legendary Mike Barron on The Punisher, on The Flash, Star Wars, and a host of others. Nexus. I mean, the list goes on. He kicks it off in spectacular fashion. And I follow him up with the next story. The first story is really powerful. It's called Duty, D-U-T-Y, Duty, and it's written by Mike Barron. And it's a wonderful story about the Calico investigating a series of murders that are happening in the neighborhood. And, there's somebody going around with duct tape, and he's doing some pretty crazy things with the duct tape and some animals in the neighborhood. And that leads into a secondary investigation, and that's where I come in. So it flows beautifully. You're talking about, again, 48 pages of comics, 2 comic books. For the Kickstarter, we do price it at 10, and that is because of there's obviously things like additional goals that we get. So you're not just going to get the comic, you're going to get stickers, you get posters and things like that. So ultimately, your value that you're ultimately going to get when this thing's over is probably going to be closer to the $25, $30, or even $40, depending on how many goals we hit for just one comic book that you back. You go higher, you're going to get the closer that we're going to get to these goals. So we have people who back a statue, they back T-shirts and all sorts of things. Well, listen, the more the merrier, because A, you're getting a quality product. B, you're getting additional things with it, and C, every penny goes to fighting animal abuse. All right, we are the only publisher in America dedicated to the fight against animal abuse through comics and manga. So that's what we're about. We have taken a stance. We're not going to take any funds for ourselves for the first stage of our company. We are a for-profit company. We're not a nonprofit, but we're a for-profit that works strictly with nonprofits. So that's our mission. Our mission is to fight animal abuse and then support these wonderful charities that we get to vet. That's why it's not the other way around. We're not a PSA. We're not inhibited by publications that are telling, well, you can't write that. No. We're going to do this ourselves. We're going to pay for this ourselves. We're going to be a grassroots book that gets money from people who really love animals and really love comics the right way. And then we're going to take that money. We'll keep putting out great comics one after another for a wonderful price with a wonderful cause. All right. And then, phase 2, phase 3, which, fingers crossed, that's really what we're working really hard to do. Hopefully we get into animation and hopefully even better things. At that point, I really think that's when the floodgates open on this, because I think if millions of people start hearing about the Calico and how wonderful the deal is and what the mission is about, I really think we have the potential for some big stuff here.
Heck yeah. Dude, animation would be awesome. And just in general, like I mentioned this earlier, but you haven't shied away from kind of even popping into different mediums, because you did the comics, we got the trade, like I mentioned, you did the manga, which is like stepping into a similar but separate world in a lot of ways.
Right.
So these are options here if you're just wanting to back. So maybe you've backed the previous issues, you've gotten the trade. These are options here to back the new story. However, if you're coming into this, you've never read Calico, you need to check it out. There are options for you as well, and like the pricing galore. This is insanely good. But we've got a reminder here that the prologue, these 2 issues, 48 pages together. You got the trade, which is the first 8 issues of the original run, 240 pages. So you can get book 1 in the prologue for $35.
Yep.
Doll hairs, man. That's such a good deal. For perspective, 288 pages. Like that's 288 pages of comics for $35. If you want, you can also get the collector's edition and the prologue for $45, or you can get all 3 for $60. So such an incredible deal. Talk about this just in case people do need to catch up, and let's hear about it.
Yeah. Well, listen, Here Comes Calico, issues 1 through 8. It's Hector Gil. He's training for a fight that he thinks is going to be taking place in Boston. And right from page 1, right before he goes to the gym, he gets a message from Dog Mama. Dog Mama, if you guys in the audience have come across a Netflix documentary called Don't Mess with Cats or Don't F with Cats, Dog Mom is inspired by the lady in that. I mean, that's pretty much Dog Mom. All right. And she scours the web every single day for any news about anybody who's abusing animals. And the next recipient of that message is the Calico. All right. And he basically gets that information. He receives the information from her because she works with a group called Fauna Anonymous. All right. FA, Fauna Anonymous. They scour the dark web to find all kinds of information about these bad guys. And that's how she builds the file, gives it to the Calico, and he goes after these baddies. And let me tell you, right from issue 1, Here Comes Calico. You know, Josh, you read it. So did you, Drew. He unleashes a brand of justice that is unmatched by any comic book character in history, the type of things that he does to these bad guys. All right. And that's not putting it mildly. You can attest to that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I got it right here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Corey, who mentioned earlier, it's a hard R. It's a hard R for sure.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And listen, it's the first 8 issues of that. All right. We like to say this when we sell it in person. This series will put hair on your chest, man and woman alike. All right. We got to keep razors at the booth to shave the women's chests because this one has a lot of testosterone.
Yeah. You get the issue 5 with the jiggler. Holy, you got it. I don't want to say what happens, but you have someone with pretty much a submachine gun. It's just a minigun. A minigun. It's like it's not pretty at all for anyone involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Drew brings up the jiggler. That is I mean, man, I had so much fun writing that character. And frankly, guys, you guys know because you guys been in and around comics for decades. When you're having fun doing this stuff, that's really you could tell it in the pages. And we as a team, we're just having fun. That's really where, a lot of it, when you start with issue 1 and the subject matter, it's really hard. It's really grim and it's hard to put that stuff out because, you realize that there's a victim there and what's going through the mind and heart of the Calico when he's seeing this stuff. When you get to the point where the jiggler comes out, man, it is a full-blown street war party, at the Sigma Comics, group. We're having really fun telling that story. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, the story is getting tighter. The art's getting better. Everything is really coming together and gelling. So as a nice entry into the second run here. Here Comes Calico, the prologue for book 2.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to keep going. And if you decide you've read this before and you liked it or whatever it might be, maybe you're really interested, you like the mission that HH is delivering here, there is a bomb deluxe package that you can get that gives you just a ton of stuff. So I'm going to let you just go through and talk about some of these options here and what kind of comes with this deluxe package because you'll speak to it way better than I can.
This is the Calico Mania package right here. This is Calico Mania running wild in the streets of New York City. I mean, you're walking around with just like I have on my phone. I've got the Calico. This is my phone, guys. I'll show you right here. This is my screensaver. Look at this. Look at that right there, baby. That Calico cat.
I love it.
All right. I got the Calico. You can get it too on your phone. And you can get wallpaper. I got the wallpaper. We got the stickers. We got 4 stickers that come here. The Sigma Comics T-shirt. That is a legendary logo by Bob Bell with the cap as well. You got the Calico 1 through 8 collected in that beautiful trade, and you've got it with the prologue for book 2. So you got, as Josh mentioned there, 288 pages. It's absolutely unmatched. It's a great deal. And in this package, you also get the digital. So you could put those books right away on your shelf, and you could simply lean back in your favorite reading spot with your tablet and fix yourself a nice drink and beautiful color coming off of that iPad or whatever tablet you have. You're going to love it. It's a great deal for just $100. You get all of this stuff. It's a mountain that you're going to get in the mail for just $100. And again, folks, every penny goes to fighting animal abuse. It really is a fantastic deal. You want the full story. You just want the story. Go get that whole story package for $35. It gives you Betrayed and the the prologue for book 2, or come in here and go Calico Mania running wild, and you're going to have a great time with this because you're really going to be immersed in the world of Hector Gil, the ultimate defender of animals. Go wild, folks.
Nice. Yeah, I've always kind of been a fan of your logo, the Sigma Comics logo, but especially hearing that story just gives me so much more of an appreciation of it and the history of it, and I'm like, hell yeah. Like I will wear that with pride. We're gonna kind of start heading towards wrapping things up a little bit. So I don't know if there's any, and this is what I was talking about earlier. That first issue, that run, I love it.
Yes.
Is there anything that you want to say about Here Comes Calico or the books you're writing or Mike or whatever it might be that you feel like you haven't had the chance to say yet?
Well, I'm gonna say this. I've said it before. I'm the luckiest guy in comics. I think. I have legends reading my comic book, guys. Can you imagine this? I'm just a guy, former boxer from the Bronx. How is it possible there's anybody who's luckier than me? I consider myself very lucky. I have people who care about what we're doing, people like you who are genuine comic book fans that can see that, there's a good quality to this book. There's passion behind it. I also have the benefit of getting behind something that I'm really passionate about, which is animals. Animals have always been, a key part of my life. I've always loved animals. And I want everybody out there to understand this. All right. We're going through a very interesting time in comics. Okay. The fertile ground that we've always had is starting to get a bit spotty. Okay. And now more than ever, folks, you really need to support the comic book publishers that are genuine with their love for comics. Okay. And this is something I think most of I don't know what your audience is, Josh, in terms of age range, but my assumption is you have a sophisticated comic book reader who's an audience member here. If you've been in and around comics for decades, you can tell the quality of a book. You've seen many comics out there. This is a good quality book that has good guidance, that's shepherded the right way. It gives you a great price, and it supports a wonderful cause. You're getting the thing is firing on all cylinders, and we're giving you a good price, a good value. Please support us. You guys are really going to love it. And I'll say this. If you love street vigilante characters, okay, if you like the Punisher, if you like Batman, if you like Daredevil, here's a guy that you are absolutely going to love.
Yeah.
That's really all I have to say. And I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to your audience from New York City here. And
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate it. And all you guys that supported the campaign, thank you so much. You're really doing a wonderful thing. You're keeping us doing what we love to do. All right. And don't leave it at us. Drew's got some wonderful stuff out there. He's another one that's amazing with his work and the wonderful books that he's putting out and the wonderful passion that he shows. All right. Stay tuned to what he's got going on. We have Aaron as well with his campaign. It's called Kneel Before Doomface. Support the aficionados community. And Josh, again, thank you so much for being a true and genuine lover of comics. You're doing a wonderful thing here with this show. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I especially with the show, I've had it a little over a year now, and a lot trying to figure out, how I wanted to do, what I wanted to do, listening to people give advice about you should try this, do this, and I finally think I'm kind of finding what feels true and most honest to me. But one of the things that I get excited about each month is actually doing top 5 comics with Drew and discussing things that are good. And we tried to approach it. I wanted to approach it from 2 perspectives, because I wanted to do what Drew covers, just the top 5 comics. But I also wanted to discuss the top 5 debuts, because there's so many comics out there. There's so much out there that it's really easy to miss good stuff. And there's so many times that, you will have that one book that this small niche community will know about and love and talk about how great it is. And then so many people have never even heard of it. So I love that we get to come on and discuss that monthly. But I love the quote unquote problem we've been having lately. We can't in good faith just stick to 5. We've got to throw in honorable mentions because there's so much good work going on out there.
Can I just interrupt you? Can I just interrupt you? Since one thing, I'm going to say this to you. You, Wes, Perch, a bunch of you, but I want to talk about you in particular because you're really talking about the culture of comics, and you're also giving the review piece. You're doing something alarmingly important that is needed right now. And that's really the right word, alarmingly, because that's really where we are, frankly, in comics. I'm going to submit to you 2 dishes, okay? They were both created by a legendary culinary chef, okay? They're putting them down, okay? And you have 2 different people consuming this product. You have someone whose palate has been fine-tuned over decades and decades. They could savor every subtle hint of flavor and morsels and texture of the food. And then you have somebody who comes in who really is just hungry and just wants to wolf the thing down and doesn't appreciate the work and the sophistication behind this. Sir, what I'm telling you right now is that it's people like you that are giving that wonderful layer that is so important, that is missing in comics today. You're giving them a fine, sophisticated view of what a true, genuinely good comic book is. And for that, I want to say from all of us creators, thank you for what you're doing. Seriously, both of you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, look, it's easy to do something you love, and you talked about you feel like you're the luckiest guy from what you're doing right now. Right. I've heard that same exact quote from Drew. I will never forget. I will never ever forget. 2 years ago, Dallas Fan Expo, Drew was working a certain booth, and he had his first like ongoing series out, and I knew people were reading it. I knew people liked it, but that was my first time witnessing how many people were coming up, praising him, praising his work, asking for his autograph. And we had a couple people back to back coming up, and he's signing the books. And I just remember turning to Drew and being like, dude, this is incredible. Like, how do you feel? And he said the exact same thing. He's like, I'm getting paid to do what I love. And I love what I'm doing. Like, I'm stoked. And it's one of those things that, like, I'm sure Drew had an idea of where his career would hopefully be going. I don't think he had any idea that it would be kind of what it is now, because he's just expanding and growing and getting better and getting more opportunities and just across the board. Like, I'm a firm believer if you can find good people that love this medium, because I do think comics kind of get overlooked sometimes. I do think there are people out there that will look at comic books and go, well, aren't those for kids? And I'm like,
just a stepping stone to something else,
or a stepping stone.
It's like I think HH and I, comics are not a stepping stone. Comics are for us. That's where I want to be.
Right.
So
I am happy to come in and support good talent, and also people that just care about the industry. And it goes back to you discussing Klaus earlier. I have found in comics, people that love the medium want nothing more to see other talented people come in and do well, because that medium means so much. The medium means so much to them. Absolutely. So I'm happy to be here and talking about this. Drew. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man. And man, I've even been saying like, oh, HH, I've got to get you on for like a year. So I appreciate you being patient. Like, that's the one thing.
No worries at all. I've been touring the world, my friend. So no worries.
Nice. Drew, is there anything you want to add real quick about Here Comes Calico before we wrap things up?
Yeah, all I gotta say is if you have a testosterone deficiency, this will cure that. So I recommend that. I would prescribe those to everyone who has that problem, and you're not going to miss out on this. And like, if you're a true comic book fan and you love newsprint, and you miss newsprint, you got to get this collection. It's fantastic, and it's a fun read, wild read. I said I backed the Kickstarter not too long ago. Everyone else should as well.
Yep.
Well said, Drew. Thank you very much. I'm going to call the local hospital here and see if we can partner with them.
I love it. I will back Drew. This is a very action-packed, violent book. You will get a dose of testosterone. HH mentioned they've got razors for the ladies. And I love street level characters. I don't hide my love for Batman and Gotham and those characters there, but I think they're their best when they're dealing with street level issues. So that's one of the things that I really loved about Calico. You throw in the animal aspect with me, and I'm 100% on board. And yeah, man, look, I'm there. But the other thing that I really want to talk about HH, and I'm going to kind of praise him as a person, probably one of the most gracious and selfless people I think I've had the pleasure of meeting. He did something to help us in Dallas this past year, Dallas Fan Expo, and was great. Didn't want anything out of it. We just like, hey, can you throw us a bone? He helped us out and expected nothing. But I love watching HH at conventions because hearing you have your marketing background, it makes sense, but you're genuine, and you can't fake genuine. And I think when people come up and talk to you, they get a sense of that. You're honest and true with them. But man, you know how to work a convention. So every convention, it never fails. And this is the slide that I said I wasn't going to show you till we got here. It never fails that either before Sunday or really early on Sunday, this is what you see. Sorry, sold out. He goes home early, calls it a day, talks to friends. But man, I love your comic book presence at a comic convention, because that's kind of fading away. And look, we kind of talked about the backer prices and stuff, and there's different prices here. However, I will say I respect the fact that you've got people that are paying money to come to a convention, and you're respecting that. So, but yeah, I love what you do. I love your gratitude. I love how big you are about supporting other people. Because you're constantly there popping up. Wes's stream, my stream, Max's stream. And it's a busy world, guys. Like, I don't know if you still have a day job, what you do I don't know any of that. You don't have to share about it, but life is busy. Life is crazy. There's so much going on. So to see you constantly, your presence is always there. It means a lot. So,
well, it's thanks to people like you that, again, truly care about comics. You know, Wes is another one. You know, Max is another one. These are people who you know, all you have to hear, you just have to hear them for a few minutes, and you can tell the genuine quality of it. You know, with respect to the conventions, that's really where we excel. That's our bread and butter. And, you know, you mentioned the marketing background. My lack of sophistication in new marketing techniques like social media caused me to say, you know what, well, we keep selling out. We might as well start using this as an advertising thing. So I whipped out the big marker and went ahead and right there on these signs that they give you before you guys go and you set up a booth, there's a big sign in black and white that just shows your name of your booth with the number. I just flipped it over and put, hey, sorry guys, we're sold out one day, and put it on there and said, maybe we'll get some attention that way. And then people started actually, more people, you know, it's that FOMO thing, right? So once we didn't have anything, all of a sudden we started getting an increase in numbers of people doing the QR code, because there's no one there now. So, oh, what's this about? And they start taking pictures, and then we started seeing the pictures. So, well, we should take a picture and upload that up to social media, you know, and that'll serve as advertisements. And sure enough, you know, I'd say 8 out of 10 times we sell out. So we're really proud about that. And again, you know, comics is this industry, you know, you sort of have been indirectly alluding to it, but comics, it's an industry where it's funny in that the better your neighbor does, believe it or not, 9 times out of 10, the better that's going to be for you. If you got a hot new title in the comic book shop, all of a sudden it's bringing in new people. Well, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a corollary impact on the business. People are going to start seeing your comic more, et cetera, et cetera. All of a sudden, your numbers are doing better. So this is one of the few industries where, you know, your neighbor doing well it behooves you to support the neighbor. We really want to see other people doing well, and that's exactly what we do in this aficionados family. You know, you mentioned Wes being sort of the nucleus, but now we have a bunch of people that we really care about, and we want to make sure that they're doing well. So again, you know, you guys, thank you so much for perpetuating that. Absolutely.
Heck yeah. I will remind everyone again, if you want to back the campaign, the link is pinned in the comments. It's in the description. We did discuss some of the tiers, some of the things that you can get to back the book, but there's so much more there that you go go check it out. There's a statue, 11.5-inch statue that looks freaking fantastic. There's the opportunity to get original art, some commissioned sketches by the artists, Renato and Gabrinal. Like so many great opportunities to get something that's either special or one of a kind. So by all means, go check it out. Back good books, back good people. I will always say that. HH, just to wrap up, if people want to find you on social media or wherever, where can they find you?
Okay, just one correction before I get into that. The book right now is only on Kickstarter. So we've removed the Indiegogo and Fund My Comic, and that's for other reasons, but it's on Kickstarter right now. That's where to get it. All right, in terms of social media, head over to Instagram, subscribe there. We actually have a YouTube channel as well where we put out, actually, it's funny, but most of our videos right now are about the Tyson fight and boxing, but but we do have a YouTube channel, and we will talk comics too. We'll also talk about animals and animal rights. We do have a video right now about Peanut and Fred. That was the squirrel and the raccoon that were taken out by New York State. So F them, F New York State. New York City's good, but New York State, come on, you got it failing great there, buddies. You guys better change your tune, or you're gonna have HH coming up there pretty soon. All right, so. Thank you so much. That's the YouTube channel. It's Here Comes Calico on YouTube. Just type in Here Comes Calico. You'll find us on what do you call this? Instagram. It's Sigma Comics. On Facebook, it's Sigma Comics as well. So sign up and subscribe to all those things. I think you're really going to love what we have to say about comics, animals, and fighting.
Heck yeah. Drew, same with you. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Dolan Waddick. You can find me on in Instagram, Dolan_Waddick. I'm always posting the projects I'm working on and stuff I got coming up. So stay tuned.
Heck yes. Plenty more coming out for you as well. So
I just had a call with Morant Michaels before we went live. Yeah, it's gonna be we're having a big meeting next week. Then 2025 is gonna be massive. All the projects I've been doing for the last 2 years are finally going to be coming out next year.
Right. I love it.
Drew, one question. I don't want to say the name of the character because I don't know if it's public knowledge yet, but your character that starts with the G-O, when is that coming out?
I think that should be next year.
Okay. So you haven't announced it, right?
No. He's going to be in issue 2. He's going to be in issue 2.
All right. So I was good to not mention anything.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
But that side story will be coming out with issue 2. So yeah.
Well, then I'll say this then, folks that are watching this. Drew has an awesome book that's coming out next year. So you better stay tuned.
There's so much I want to say that I can't say it. I'm not saying because I'll just word vomit. Yeah. There's so much coming, guys. Just hold on to your butts, as Samuel L. Jackson says in Jurassic Park. If you liked what you saw tonight, be sure to give us a like and subscribe here on the channel. Follow us on YouTube. If you're on, we always have a ton of people on the X side, the Twitter side. Come over to the YouTube side and say hello. But also you can find me on X/Twitter. I'm one of those that I'll always call it Twitter. Sorry, Elon. But at By Popped is the channel's handle, and then you have my personal handle, which is at Joshua L. McDonald. The channel handle is always going to be just comic related stuff or movie related stuff. The personal handle, who knows what you're going to see anytime. But thank you guys for coming in. HH, thanks for coming on. I love chatting with you. I can't wait to see the success of the book. I can't wait to do this again in the future when we have future waves, new issues. It's going to be a fun time.
Thank you,
Drew, as always, thank you for being here. It's always good to have fun time with friends. And to the chat, thank you guys for being active. I love the support. Go support HH. Go back. Here Comes Calico, and then let us know how much you liked it. But
thank you, guys.
Of course, man. With that, we're gonna call it a night, and I'll see y'all next week. We're gonna most likely be doing our comic book club next week. We keep kind of shifting things around. I'm gonna get the team, make sure everyone's good because it's Thanksgiving. So it'll either be next week, or if people are busy with family stuff, we might push it to the next. But I'll know that within the next day or so. So with that, we're going to close out, and I will say good night.
Get the fuck